Madness Edition episode. It's time for the NCAA Tournament, and I'm lucky enough to be joined by two former NDSU Bison who had the opportunity to play in this great tournament. Today, I get to take a trip down memory lane with Bison greats Ben Woodside and Luke Moormann. These guys were, of course, part of the first NDSU Bison team to win the Summit League back in 2009 and play in the NCAA Tournament just a few short 16 years ago. So, thank you both for joining me. I greatly appreciate it. I'm very much looking forward to this conversation. As a Bison supporter, as a March Madness diehard, even though I don't consider myself much part of the basketball community anywhere, I'm more football, baseball, but I absolutely love this time of year for so many reasons that we all do. So let's take a trip back in time and revisit an absolutely incredible month for both you guys. I know you guys are married and have kids now, so there's probably been a few more moments along in life that kind of take place of playing in the NCAA tournament, but hopefully you guys can revisit some memories and think back long enough to, go into a little bit of detail. But let's flash back 16 years ago. You guys are the Summit League regular season champs. I remember talking to my parents as you guys were kind of working towards March. You guys looked pretty good, and all I remember is NDSU might have a chance to win this thing and get into the dance, which, again, you guys were the first ever. So that hadn't really been talked about yet, other than maybe parts of Fargo and where Bison Nation is thriving. But obviously, again, never been to the dance. What was your guys' mindset? Again, trying to think back a number of years ago here, of course, but entering the Summit as the clear favorites. I believe you guys won the regular season as well, so I'm assuming you guys were the favorites going into the tournament. But again, never been to the actual dance. What was your guys' mindset, if you can think back, just going into the dance, what your expectations were for yourself and for the program?
Well, I'm going to first defer this to Moormann because it's so long ago that I don't even know if I can remember some significant points. My memory's not that good. So I'll defer this to Moormann and then I'll answer.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, I just remember setting screens for him every single possession, so it's pretty easy what to remember. But it does come back this time of year, and someone always seems to bring it up. It obviously used to be more frequent as we were right out of college, and like you said, you remember where you were at that day that we played. You were a ninth grader in high school. We talked about this prior to this, a little bit. And going into teaching my first year, there were so many kids who the year before knew where they watched it, even though the year prior. But to your question, that's something that we worked for 4 years. It was we were on a probation. St. Thomas is in the same predicament right now in the conference in the Summit League. We knew coming in that we would not have any sort of postseason tournament. I remember, I feel like Ben had the option to call him Ben. He'll get mad at me. I should probably just call him Woody, I guess, here. So Woody Woody had the option to play right away. The rest of us were kind of told, we need a red shirt. We need to get ourselves ready. We need to get quicker, faster, stronger, get used to the speed of the game and all that stuff. But I think it was an easy, and Ben can speak on this himself, but an easy choice for him, knowing that all of us would stick together for 4 years and then have the chance by redshirting to play that final season with a postseason tournament. And so, that's something that we say we put our blood, sweat, and tears into for 4 years. It was like a perfect story that came, down to this one opportunity. And, Ben hits that game winner in the conference tournament that gets us in there. But, you said, were we the favorite? I'm trying to remember exactly, and Woody, you might remember kind of what happened, but something happened where the tournament almost wanted us to lose because of the fact that if they knew that if Oakland won, we'd maybe still get in with a at-large bid. And they kind of changed some tie-breaking rule or something at the time. That coach came in and he was super mad about that. Like by the books of the conference, they like changed this rule. And maybe you can speak on that, Woody, but I remember that being like a pivotal moment. Like, oh man, if we don't win this, we might not get in the tournament, where we kind of thought either way, win or lose, we would. And so I'm trying to recall exactly what that was. And maybe you remember. I just remember being in the hotel room, coach coming in and telling all of us, and it wasn't a good thing.
Yeah. Well, you said Ben twice, so you screwed up already on that. You said Ben twice when you said you're going to say Woody. But yeah, just to reiterate a little bit what Morm said, I think once everyone decided to, everyone was redshirt, and there was no question in my mind that, I was going to redshirt. I wanted to be with these guys. We put a lot of time in together. And so obviously all of us decided, hey, this is a chance to make the NCAA tournament. And quite frankly, all those years leading up, it kind of was, is almost just anticipation for us to get to that, to get to the senior year. There's some higher expectations because in the media, in the newspaper, word was getting out that, and people understood about the probation year and that this was our one chance. So I think there was a little bit more expectations than your typical, Summit League tournament right now, because every year you can go. And then to add to that, as Moormann said, was we ended up regarding the tie-breaking rule. So we won down in Century on the road, and we thought we had the number 1 seed locked up. And then we come to find out, Coach Phillips comes in, that somehow the Summit League board or executive, whatever you want to call them, thought that there might be a chance because of our records with Oakland and ours that there might be an opportunity to get 2 teams in. Well, he wasn't too happy because, he had just basically told us, hey, we're number 1 seed. We locked up the number 1 seed. Not to mention we had to go on the road still to Oral Roberts, who was top 3 in the conference, and they had some stud players and a really good team on the road. And so we had to go there and play. And now all of a sudden we had to go win again. And so I think that, obviously we went there and won. We got the number 1 seed, but there was, there was some expectations, and then all of some changes with the conference that kind of, threw us off course a little bit. But it was fun getting ready to, getting that number 1 seed and then going to the tournament, or going to the Summit League tournament, number 1 seed.
So you guys obviously go into the Summit League, the classic 66-64 win over Oakland. You make your way through the quarters, semis. Again, the famous Woodside game-winning floater with 4 seconds left. I think I smile every time I see Dom Izzo reposted on Twitter, because again, just brings back great memories. And I just remember I'm in 9th grade at the time. My mom's an NDSU grad. My dad's a Jamestown grad, but obviously big Bison followers. And I remember jumping off the couch, just waiting for their half-court shot to not go in the basket. I'm sure your guys' heart stopped in the arena for a couple seconds there. But just watching it every year just kind of, again, brings back those good memories. But so you guys win the Summit. You guys, again, first time going to the NCAA tournament in program history. So you take down Oakland. Now, as all basketball fans know, there's so many conference tournaments that lead up to Selection Sundays. The big conferences obviously go up to Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and get closer to Selection Sunday. But the Summit is done on like a Saturday or Sunday. It used to be done on like a Tuesday. So again, thinking back to that week leading up to Selection Sunday, you guys know you're in. You have an automatic bid. What do you guys do for a week leading up to Selection Sunday? You don't know who you're playing. It's not like you can take 5 days off and then, oh, by the way, we got to get ready for Kansas tomorrow. Like, do you guys lay low? Do you guys, what's the intensity like in practice? What's your mindset of like having a week and a half off before going to play the biggest game in your school's history at the moment?
Yeah. I think Saul Phillips did a tremendous job our entire senior year of keeping us fresh and keeping us healthy, for the most part. I mean, we had what, 4 fifth-year seniors that basically, played tons of minutes almost every game throughout our career. And so he did a great job of keeping us fresh and healthy. And, he would dictate practices differently for us, and he would, we'd stay fresh, but then at the same time, we'd get a lot of extra jump shots up and free throws. And I remember the week before the NCAA tournament, that's exactly what we did. We'd stay sharp on our plays. We'd stay sharp on defensive rotations, really get some good sweats going. But then after that, he wasn't, we weren't out there dogging it, 2-hour practices, because there's no need at that point. If you can't figure it out now and you're not ready to go, then, you got some other issues to deal with. So that's kind of what I remember.
Yeah. And I think he also did a great job of just keeping a light mood too, Saul was always great about that. not making it too big of a deal where we're all freaking out about it or being so nervous about it. He kept a very light mood with it, joked around, and I remember that made it a little bit easier for us too through the whole process of that week.
So I'm a Kansas follower. I have family who's from Kansas. I've been a Jayhawk fan. I mean, I got my Jeff Boschee jersey somewhere from when I was like 5 years old. So when the brackets revealed the Bison are taking on Kansas, I'm like, whoa, this is wild. This is happening. This is crazy. Do you guys follow any college basketball teams just through your upbringing? A team like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I've always watched Duke because of Coach K. I've always watched UNC. The Blue Bloods, of course, usually enter the conversation. But leading up to Selection Sunday, was there any talk, I mean, in your head or with your teammates, like, who do you think we're going to run? I mean, we're probably going to be I can't remember what seed you guys were. You're probably going to roll a 1 or 2 or 3 potentially coming out of the Summit League. But was there any team that you're like, I really hope that, we got Coach Izzo sitting on the other bench. This is going to be pretty cool.
I wasn't. No, go ahead, Morms.
No, I was just going to say, for me, it wasn't necessarily a team. I think it was more if we could get in the region of Minneapolis, because we knew that could almost be a home game for us. So I was a follower of UNC growing up, being a Jordan guy. That was the easy in for me with them. But I feel like I didn't follow players. But that would have been my team kind of growing up. But I don't remember that for me, trying to think of a team that we wanted to play.
Yeah, just piggybacking off of what Morm said, I think we knew that that region was in Minneapolis, and so I think we knew that there was a 14 seed could get there, so we were hoping that we were going to get a 14 seed, which we ended up getting, and not a 15 or a 16, because then I think it was either way out west in Oregon or somewhere like eastern, I don't know, Kentucky or something like that, kind of more on the eastern side. But I think our hope was to get that 14 seed for the region.
So leading up to your guys' game, as you guys just mentioned, you land in Minneapolis. You're 3 hours away from campus. First time ever NDSU is heading to the dance. So you can probably expect a pretty large following from Fargo and other parts of North Dakota making their way out to the cities. What was that like? Obviously, again, we know we have Kansas. We're playing in the Metrodome. I believe that's where you guys are playing. But we're heading to Minneapolis. What was that like as a college kid? Again, the first team to head to the dance from NDSU, and just a few hours away from home. You're essentially going to get an NDSU home game against Kansas in the NCAA tournament. Well, what was that kind of feeling and the excitement, and what kind of treatment you guys get going into the cities for this thing?
Well, I think back to even the selection show. We had a packed house at the BSA for the selection show. And when they announced that it was the 14 seed, because people knew the Midwest region was in Minneapolis for the 14 seed there, it erupted. It went wild. And so I think that kind of started the momentum of, hey, there's going to be a lot of people here. We're going to have a great crowd, going to have a great following. Yeah, I think we felt that. And I don't think we got anything special, but I do know we had an incredible fan base going down. And I remember going down to the city, driving down on the bus, and there's, NDSU people driving down constantly. So we just knew that the support was there quite a bit.
Yeah, it was the same thing. It was just, I want to say 17,000 fans there, 14,000 were Bison, 3,000 Kansas, if I remember, or, other teams. And so there was a lot of green and gold, and to run out to that with a bunch of fans and family and friends and easy access for people to get to for all of us. Majority of our team was North Dakota, Minnesota guys. And so, everyone was able to come support us and be a part of it. And yeah, it was a lot of fun too. It was seeing people in the hotels and stuff. But again, Saul did a great job of just keeping us humble and joking around, keeping it light, which I think helped us too. And obviously we lost the game, but really, really cool opportunity.
So before I get into my next question, that is, again, your guys' actual experience playing against, the defending national champion, Kansas Jayhawks. They still had a bunch of studs. I'm sure they graduated and some talent went to the NBA the year before. So probably not the strongest Kansas team ever compared to a team that had just won the national title. But looking up the Kansas lineup, and I feel like I was so focused on you guys that game, I didn't even realize who Kansas was starting on the court. But we got the Marcus Morris, and Markieff Morris. The Morris twins are playing. I know I just talked to Moormann about guarding Cole Aldrich, Tyshawn Taylor, Sharon Collins, Brady Morningstar. I mean, half these guys are first-round NBA draft picks that year or the next couple of years. So again, you're heading to Minneapolis to play the Jayhawks. I know Moormann and I were kind of talking about this, and you'd probably give him some crap about a few things going into it Woodside. But what any thoughts, any recollection of experiences, any specifics from, again, you're playing the Jayhawks, the defending national champions, in an NCAA tournament game?
Yeah, one of the big things that I remember, we were at the Metrodome, and when we would score or have a good possession or on defense, I remember, and I don't know if you could attest to this, Morms, but it was weird being on the floor because you'd hear like a slight cheer and then it'd bounce off the bubble, right? And then come back down on the floor. So it's almost like it was accentuated after they, a few seconds later, and, the cheers and the roar. So I remember that vividly. Another huge point I remember is Morms following out, which definitely.
Here we go. I told you, Kyler. I told you.
If the hack man here didn't get in foul trouble, I think we would have had a lot better chance to win. But he was riding the pine after a little bit, I guess. Got a little excited playing Aldridge.
I was gonna say he's only guarding Cole Aldrich, so what more do you want from him?
Yeah, and to his defense, we definitely had looking back on it, we had the wrong game plan for Cole Aldrich, to his defense. But every once in a while, I like to give Morms a hard time about how much he fouled, and we probably would have been in the second round, if Aldridge didn't have a double-double and 7 dunks and fouls on you. So.
But I go to Sharon Collins 37 points. If we take away 10 of those, and I know you weren't guarding him. Because then he would have had 50. But yeah, I mean it was a back and forth game. Like we talked a little bit earlier, Kyler. It's we got down. I don't know what the most we got down was, but it was double digits, and we cut it to 4 late in the game, I think, is the closest we got there. But yeah, the opportunity, the story of working to get to that point, I don't think win or lose that game. Again, it's first time in history. None of us know what to expect. The school doesn't know what to expect. It was just, something we worked for our entire career in college, and it's something we'll never forget.
So Kansas 43, Bison 34 at half. So you're clearly competing. Final ends up 10-point game, 84-74. I tried to look back at what the spread was to see if you guys covered, and I couldn't find it. There were some newspaper articles that said they may have covered at 10. I would say maybe around there might have been good. But I know Moormann and I have talked about when I'm in 9th grade. I told Moormann I was probably in the worst class periods possible to have a basketball game on in middle school. I had lunch and then I had English, and you're not watching basketball in English class. I can tell you the exact classroom I was in watching this thing. I think we watched it, 5-minute segments at a time, but the biggest thing I just remember watching it is you guys cut it to 6, and then they score a couple times. You guys go down 12, cut it to 4, go down 10. So again, continually competing with them, but just couldn't close the gap, obviously. But a really cool, again, as Moormann just said, that his first couple of years as teacher, he had students that would talk about it, which I think is really cool because I still remember it now. So A question with comparing to Dexter Warner, guys like Dexter Warner that you guys might even still connect with these days. I know he does some play-by-play stuff for the Bison still. Obviously, he had his own moments against Gonzaga years ago. Have you guys ever like sat down and compared experiences, talked about how much fun and how cool it was in the NCAA? I know Dexter I want to say he might have had a double-double against Gonzaga, and I think they went to the national title game that year. I'd have to look at the actual data to see how accurate that is, because of course I remember I graduated with them, so that was kind of a cool moment for some of my classmates to see Dexter take on Gonzaga by himself and be shooting floaters and hook shots left and right over the top of them. But have you guys ever had a chance to sit down with any of the more recent Summit League champions and talk about your NCAA experiences together at all?
I haven't talked to Dex about like the NCAA tournament, and I'm sure many years ago maybe I did, but I can't recall anything off the top of my head. But Morms, I know you interact with Dex. You've interacted with Dexter quite a bit more than I have after college and whatnot. So maybe you guys connected.
No, not really. But, I'll say this, and I think this is going to be something that's a dying breed with the way the portal is and stuff. We have get-togethers, we have Bison reunions, we have alumni weekends, and I'll tell you, with the coaches there and stuff, we honestly don't talk a whole lot of hoops. We talk, families, we talk stories of being in college and the not a lot of hoops, but I think it's interesting because how many teams are going to say that they had guys go through college for 5 years together now? Probably not something that's going to happen anymore. And so I feel like the camaraderie we have as a Bison group, even to Dexter's age, to some of the younger guys, it's and our team especially, we keep in touch very, very well. But it's usually not a lot of the basketball side of things. It's all the other stuff through life.
So since playing in the tournament years ago, and obviously all college basketball fans, and I'm assuming a lot of college basketball or basketball fans in general, how much enjoyment and how much fun it is to watch this tournament every year. But after actually playing in it, experiencing with your teammates, your guys in college, do you have a deeper appreciation? Obviously, this time of year, you see the videos, you see the pictures pop up on social media through flashbacks. I know I talked about Dom Izzo always showing you guys this video, the game winner at the Summit. But do you guys have a deeper appreciation for the tournament and just understanding what it's like to be part of it rather than just watching it on TV?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when I watch the NCAA tournament now, it definitely brings back memories to the boys and us going to the NCAA tournament, the hard work that that has to happen, and then just the experience at the Metrodome and the opportunity to play defending champs, to play 5 guys that were first round draft picks. I think if we didn't have the chance to go to the NCAA tournament, I wouldn't think about, the Summit League, let's say, or the Summit League championship. But anytime the NCAA tournament comes on, I always think about our time in the Metrodome. And, even though it's short-lived and it's a few moments where you think about Morms and Winks and Nelson, Saul and the guys, Tweeter, and, it's a few minutes, but it definitely, to me, it brings back more memories than anything else when the NCAA tournament's on.
Yeah, the thing I like to think about a lot now is you see some of these 16s beating ones. You've seen that. You've seen, 8, 9 seeds making it to the Final Four and people acting like they're so surprised. And to me, it's not a big surprise. You look at what we did over those years on probation, beating Wisconsin, a team that was on a incredible home win streak of, I want to say it was like 50, 60, 70 consecutive wins at home. And that might be high. I'm not sure. But I remember it was a big number. And, we're on the ESPN ticker when that happens. We beat Marquette the next year. And it's like, I feel when you have these teams, you look at, was it Oakland last year that kind of made a run on someone? I think, didn't they win the first round, Oakland? Because they were in our conference. They had that guy shot all those threes.
Yep.
But, you got teams like that, and it's like, hey, we were like that. We made a run, and just these teams that come together at the end that have been playing together for years, I think they have a big advantage. And teams that have seniors, right? Teams that got 4, 5, 6 seniors that are playing and not all freshmen. That I'm just not surprised by some of those upsets anymore, and just some of these smaller conferences of the damage they can do, of the teams that aren't heard of as much. So it's kind of fun to see that, kind of root for some of those teams during this time too.
I love that you mentioned that, because I usually fill out brackets with my fourth graders because we're crazy March Madness. We have a March Madness reading challenge for reading month. We got book brackets on our whole school. It's so much fun. And I don't think they realize how much I enjoy reading month connected to March Madness until they experience it. And even some of my fifth graders who were in my class last year, they'll come in and check out the decorations. They see the bracket all over the door. But we were filling out brackets yesterday, and I'm filling mine out on the board. They're filling theirs out. I'm teaching them how a bracket works. And I said, you guys, all these picks that I have, don't copy them, because this is going to look like a dumpster fire in 3 weeks. So it's just kind of funny to glance at some of their Final Four picks, and I'm like, that might actually be right. As absurd as those are, those might actually be pretty accurate. But I just remember one of my boys yesterday coming up, and he's like, is this why they call it the Madness? I'm like, you're starting to catch on, man. You're starting to catch on. This is why we love it. So going more to present day and kind of the modern world we live in with just college sports in general. Unfortunately, the Summit, I feel like, I don't know if the competition level is going down, but the Summit, as we all know, gets poached every year by mid-majors, the power conferences, some of them for good reasons, some of them just moving on to other places. Just talent level, experience, guys wanting more, guys wanting other things. I know there was a couple of years ago where the entire first and second team all-conference summit all transferred everywhere else, which again is just the world we live in now, but it's super unfortunate. I can't imagine as a coach building a program for a year and then my 5 starters just leave. I can't imagine the pain that coaches have to go through every year. But from your guys' experiences, and I'll drop like Grant Nelson going to Alabama, Trayson Eaglestaff heading out. We don't know where he's going yet, but another North Dakotan example. Baylor Shireman from SDSU heads to Creighton, obviously makes a name for himself, and now he's in the NBA. Zeke Mayo, again, landing with the Jayhawks after some time at South Dakota State. Obviously, he's from Lawrence, so that's slightly different situation, but definitely taking his talent somewhere else. I always think it's interesting to get different perspectives on the transfer portal and NIL, because guys who played 80 years ago and guys like my dad who played decades ago, compared to guys who are experiencing it right now. You could talk 25-year-olds, you can talk 17-year-olds, you can talk you guys who literally played in it, played college basketball at the same program for a number of years. So I'm just curious, what are your guys' thoughts on the transfer portal, NIL? I know there's positives and negatives to both of them. But for guys that NIL and transfer portal wasn't obviously a big thing back in 2009, it really wasn't a huge thing until a couple of years ago. From what you guys, I'm sure you guys talk to basketball community all year long. You hear things, you see guys moving up and down, whatever. But again, what are your guys' thoughts at all on just the transfer portal and NIL, which I know is a loaded question with 2 loaded topics in college sports, but just curious what your guys' thoughts are on that.
Well, we've always joked that if we had NIL back then, Woodside's long gone, right? I mean, so I don't know. I always have a tough time with it because I talk to a lot of the coaches. I know what they go through. It's this is their livelihood, and now they're basically evaluated on a year-by-year basis, and you could lose everybody and have to start from scratch. And if I go back to our freshman year, we were not very successful. We lost a ton of games down the stretch. Our sophomore year, kind of the same thing. We just couldn't find a way to win at the end. But we're all freshmen. We're guys in high school. We're sophomore. We're young. We don't have it figured out yet. Just strength and by the time we're seniors, it's a whole different team, right? Well, now if you're doing that every year and losing your best guys, like how difficult, like you said, that could be. I have a tough time with it. I got to coach Grant through our ECI program that I run. I mean, phenomenal kid, like super happy for him, right? He's got an unbelievable story he can tell his kids down the road, right? And opportunities he got to do and things he's got to experience through that. But even today, seeing a kid come from, NDSU, the Doucette kid leave into the portal, or into the portal, it's like, now Richmond's got to find more guys, right? He's got to go and recruit in guys, and you're not looking probably for a high school kid, right? You're looking for a a sophomore, junior, senior that you can bring in to make help you immediately. And so I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of it. I just think there's got to be some sort of rules to it, or they got to evaluate it a little more. And it's tough now because for a kid, how do you not take an opportunity with money like some of these guys are getting, right? I mean, you can change your life in college. The only thing is, like, you won't have the experiences that we had, right? I mean, we've all been in each other's weddings. We spend weekends together with our kids. Like, to me, there's a lot more value in that than maybe but you don't see that as a kid, right? As a kid, you're with the dollar signs in front of you or an opportunity at the league. I don't know. It's, every kid's different and stuff, but now at my age, I look back and we would have never did what we did if he leaves, right? If Winkleman or Tweed or anybody leaves, it's, our team is a whole different team, and we're definitely not as successful. So that's my view on it. Obviously excited for a kid like Trayson who, is going to get a lot of money going somewhere else. I mean, that's great for them. It's just, to me, there's stuff beyond that too, right? That down the road. And so, but they'll have great experiences. Yeah. So that's kind of my view. What do you kind of think?
See, Kyler, this is perfect. Now we're going to get a little debate going here. This is what you wanted, huh?
Sure. I'm open to whatever.
Love it. So, well said, Morms. My stance is different on it. I think it's okay on the NIL side to pay players. I don't think there's a problem with that. The government obviously doesn't think it's a problem with that, because anytime you are making money, what happens? You get taxed on that money. The government's going to make more money. They're okay with that. Paying a player, as I don't think should be frowned upon. I think that's totally fine. The thing that I get caught up in is the ability for the player to enter the portal whenever they want. There's no repercussions for that. When we played, you could enter the portal when we played. You just had to sit out a year, right? That aspect I don't like, because to me it seems like if it's not going to a high major for the money aspect, players are leaving just because they don't like, I don't know, and I'm making this up and I could be wrong, but they're leaving because maybe coach said something to them, or they don't like, they're not getting enough minutes. Well, did you work hard enough to be on the floor, right? So that aspect, the cop-out aspect, I don't like. The NIL money, I think it's just fine. I think if a player at 19 years old can go make $500,000 and it can change his life, the rest of his life, if he's smart enough about it, invest properly, is smart enough about it, I don't think that's a big deal. I do agree with Morms about the camaraderie aspect. That legacy that we have, and for us 5 guys with Tweet, that can never be broken. And that is, I agree with Morms, that is far more important than dollar bill signs. Again, kids, that's not happening because of the portal opportunity. It's not because kids are getting paid. It's because kids can leave whenever they want. They're not held accountable to stay out of college. So that's my stance on it. And the flip side is, you want to talk about the coaches. Well, look what happened to us at NDSU. Coaches sign contracts and they can leave whenever they want. If Coach Richmond got a job at the University of Minnesota, there's no way in hell he's staying at NDSU, regardless of who he brought in, regardless of what he said to the kids, that I'm going to be here for 4 years for you. That's all out the door. He's gone, making more money at the U of M. Look what happened to us and Miles. Miles recruited us all. I'm going to be your coach, 4 years. And he was gone for more money to Colorado State. So when you're comparing the coaches aspect with the players, previously, it's not apples to apples. The coach can go whenever they want, and a player can't. Now a player can go whenever you want, but we're supposed to feel sorry for the coach because the player can leave. I think that's my 2 takes on it. Do the coaches spend time? Do the coaches, spend time with kids and want to develop kids into men and all that? 100%. But the times have changed now for that. It's all about the dollar bills. My thing is, I'm fine with that. If a kid's worth it and people want to pay it, But I think there's got to be stipulations on kids just being able to leave whenever they want and not held accountable. Like I said before, because a coach yelled at them or they didn't get enough playing time or, whatever it is. But that's my stance on the NIL and the portal.
Moormann, any retaliation?
Well,
I
mean, I never said that I didn't think players should get paid. But I think I agree with that. If they can make money, great. I'm just saying, same standpoint. Like, if they can transfer to 5 different schools, I mean, it's just. I agree with the same thing. Like, what happened to facing some adversity here and there? Like, I agree. If you're not playing enough, you're just going to leave. If the coaches yells at you one time, you're going to leave. If you have a losing year, you're going to leave. Like, I think we're a different generation too, a little bit, and it's kind of cliche to say, but like, I think it just comes back to just a lot of what how you grow up and what your beliefs are in, and we had to face a lot of that stuff, and I think that's also made us tougher and just a mindset of hard work. And you sometimes hear that in North Dakota, like hard working kids, and that like I truly believe in that stuff too, and but I agree. If a kid can make good money, and he's right with that. I didn't even think of the standpoint of coaches leaving, but usually coaches aren't also leaving year after year after year after year, right? Richmond's been there he was there when we were there, so working his way up and has been faithful to Bison community and stuff, and a lot of coaches have too. But yeah, it's different. It's different times, but it seems like they're changing stuff. Daily, and now with the JUCO deal, right? With those kids getting their 2 years and 4 more. I mean, you're going to have guys who have a family and their wives have a full-time job and they're still playing basketball, right? I mean, it's so.
Well, wasn't Auburn starting 5 like 25 years old or something like that this year? Some crazy stat. They were super old, like 25 or something like that.
Yeah, and I had heard this from a coach too, that they had thrown out there that if anybody would be taking a college course, they could be eligible to play even if they're 35 years old, as long as they were enrolled in a certain amount of credits. But they shut it down. But like that's getting crazy if we're starting to think about that stuff. I mean, if it's true, I'll come out of retirement. I'm almost 40, but I'll get on a team.
Well, we know you can still hack, so.
I had to smirk after school when obviously the West Virginia coach heading to Indiana, and Jay Billis retweeted and said, didn't just mention on Twitter, hey, the coaches portal is always open. You guys all get mad about all these players leaving. The coaches portal is always open. I mean, I have all different kinds of opinions on it. NIL definitely wasn't a thing at Mary when I was there. And I guess I know a few people who have been just involved in extremely small dollar amounts, as we might imagine. But I know a press conference from, I believe, Nevada's coach just at the Mountain West Conference, I know went viral on social media with, he said these players aren't paid on name, image, and likeness. They're just paid. Like, nobody in the country knows who most of my guys are unless they go off in the NCAA tournament. So all this money they're making from whoever is not based on NIL. It's based on building your team through the portal and building your team through paying young guys coming in. So I thought that was a very interesting perspective. And obviously hearing from those mid-major coaches about those topics, I think is super important because, again, they get hit every single year, just like everybody else does. So
what I don't like about it, Kyler, the other aspect is mid-majors are diluted now. And you look, you kind of mentioned it, all the top players, if you're in the mid-major and you're a top player, you are going to make $400,000 or more the following year at a high major. So the mid-major quality, in my opinion, is far less than what it used to be prior to the portal and NIL, because those players stayed there, right? And now there's nobody that's going to say no to $500,000 and
at 19 years old.
At 19 years old, and you're losing you're losing a lot of the quality players in the mid-major, which as a fan now watching basketball, it's not as fun, to be honest.
Correct. All right, getting to the last pieces here. as we've talked about kind of the priceless aspect you guys have talked about with being together for a number of years in college, having those experiences, having all those great stories to tell, as you get married, as you have kids, passing those experiences down, sharing experiences still together. I know you guys have your own basketball camp. You guys bring your basketball camps not just to bigger places, but I know you guys have been to Tioga and a few other small towns. So you're kind of spreading the love through all sorts of communities and bringing a lot of great opportunities for a lot of kids. You guys want to talk briefly about your basketball camps that you have each year?
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead,
I mean, I think honestly, the start of it was, I think Woody played you played 9 years overseas?
8. Yep.
8. So kind of a way to, when he was done, it was kind of an idea of, hey, let's do this. It's a way to stay connected to basketball. He still wanted to be involved with basketball. I obviously was coaching at Century, helping out with ECI, and then eventually taking over the program. So I was heavily involved still. And I know he still had that desire to help kids, to be around basketball, and knew that it wasn't going to be a full-time thing, but something that we could just, bounce around. And so honestly, it was just kind of a couple connections that we had of family members or friends who, basically wanted to bring us out, and it was all skill development. Fundamentals is what we do, is what we preach. And it's not the stuff kids want to do, the hot shot, the lightning. We'll do a couple fun things in there, but we've been brought back year after year to these places just because of the quality stuff we do, right? And it's the basics. A lot of the stuff we did at NDSU, that it's funny that they're still doing it today at the Division I level, of start, stops, and turns, pivoting and working on footwork, and just some of the stuff that's a lost art that kids still need, right? I mean, it's not the pretty stuff, the fun stuff, but year after year we go back and do it. And it's fun to see some of these kids progress. That's basically what it's been. We've kind of fizzled off a little bit with as much as we've done, and that's just with life getting busy, but it's always fun for me and him to get back together too, and to do some of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Morm said it well there. And our camps were all skill development based, because how we got better in college and growing up was that skill development. We didn't sit there and have the fancy layup drills. First of all, we need to make sure kids could jump stop and finish off 2 feet, right? So I think that was an important part for kids at our camp, is the basic fundamentals. And parents really appreciated it, because you'd go into these, younger tournaments and whatnot, and you'd see kids that can't shoot a left-handed layup, and they should be, but they're trying this fancy, up and under off the wrong leg type layup when they can't even shoot a regular layup. So, it was all skill development based, and I think it was great for Morms and I to connect in the summer and offer our expertise, if you will, to younger generations.
So if there's any parents or families with kids coming through the system at any age, I don't know exactly what age you guys start at or end with. Where can they find you guys? What towns are you guys planning to hit up in the next year? I'm assuming that's relatively consistent each year, but where can they find you guys? Where can they sign up and register for these camps?
Yeah, I mean, we're still kind of the Tioga connection. And that's usually just been Tioga kids. They really like to have it that community based, offer it up. They do a great job with their community involvement of helping those kids payments and stuff. And so they're very good about that. And that one they've always treated us so well out there. Fargo's always been great. The tough part with Fargo now too, is there's, it seems like there's 50 camps, right? Every single school has a camp, and it's tough. And so now you're pulling kids in different directions, and it's just gotten harder with the bigger cities. We tried Bismarck years back, and same type of thing, right there. We had these kids all signed up, and then all of a sudden it was, hey, we got football camp, and we got to be at our high school football camp. We didn't know we had it overlapping. It's like, oh yeah, we get that stuff. That stuff needs to come first anyways. The school stuff, the high school. I mean, that's where they're going to be playing. But we've actually bounced around. Jamestown's been a connection we've done. Mason Walters has helped a lot with camps there. In fact, he just reached out to me. He's in Finland, I believe, and they played tonight. I haven't looked if they won or not yet, but they were the 8th seed playing, basically had to win to make the playoffs. And if they lost, they probably weren't going to make it. He might be flying home this weekend or staying for a few more weeks. But he's done a great job with camps. And otherwise, we've just bounced around to some small towns of connections we've had and kind of satellite camps. And so, our Woodside Moormann camps.com basically is our website where we put that stuff up. And we've kind of just started discussing what we're going to do this summer and where we were going to be at. Like I said, we have kids now. We're getting to the point now where it might just be a couple camps and eventually kind of fade out. I don't see myself at 60 years old still doing defensive slides out there or whatever. But it's funny because we'd go out to Tioga and we'd stay after camp our first couple of years. And the guys that we'd bring with, Tyler Rudolph, if you know that name, we brought a buddy of mine, Jake Larson, in town here that coaches.
Yep.
Justin McLeod, we brought out one year. Dexter came out one year. We turned it into one-on-one. It was just a line, and it was just make it, take it, next guy in. And we would just play for hours. And Woody just couldn't take me backing him down and getting layups. So we had to end that after a couple years. And so, but it was so fun.
He acts like he got the ball because you got to remember Kyler was make it, take it. So he never touched the ball. So I don't know what he's talking about backing down because. One, he wasn't stopping me. Two, he wasn't getting the ball on offense. So I think he forgets that little nugget.
That's defense calls foul, and you were just talking about hacking. So I remember stopping you a few times.
All right. Well, before we sign off, since it is one of the best weekends of the entire year, we got the first and second rounds of the NCAA tournament. Obviously, the next 3 weeks is loaded with the greatest tournament on the planet. So from both of you, I got to get Final Four picks and a national champion prediction. What you got, Moormann? I'm assuming you guys have filled out a bracket by now since it starts in like 12 hours now. But Final Four predictions and national champions.
I'm going to be honest. I haven't even filled out a bracket. We do a draft every year where you pick 16 guys and you snake draft, and every team is listed twice. So we actually did that on Monday. So literally like picking teams in a snake draft, not even, looking where they're based at. So you're not picking teams that could maybe meet in a second round. Mm-hmm. So I haven't even looked too much at it, but I'll tell you this. My first pick in that was Alabama. I had to go with my guy, Grant. I know he's been banged up a little bit and injured, but just rooting for those guys. And they're a lot of fun to watch. I mean, it's run and gun and fight. It's exciting basketball. They're talking them in Auburn is one of the most, fun games to watch when they play each other a couple times this year. But, hoping for them. I think Auburn's tough. I don't know how you go get Houston's tough. They got a great defense. I said earlier I'm a North Carolina guy. They pulled one off just to stay into the tournament last night, but I don't see them making it too far. Yeah. Duke's fun to watch with Cooper Flagg. I know some people aren't fans there. I mean, for a kid that age to do what he's doing is amazing. So I don't even know if I can give you a champion. I'll give you 4 teams and they'll end up being in the same quadrant and people will laugh at me. So I'm just gonna stop at that. I don't know. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm filling out my bracket tomorrow before the game's played. And I don't know again if they're in the same quadrant like Morm said, but champion, I'm gonna go with Florida. I know that for a fact. And then Final Four again, I don't know where they're at, but off the top of my head, in the Final Four I'd have Florida, I'd have Duke. If this all worked out, I'd have Auburn and I'd have Houston. Those would be my 4.
That would actually work out. I've only looked at the bracket 47 times so far. So
who do you got, Kyler?
I think I've listened to too many podcasts. I listened to spreads, all that stuff. People were making fun of Jay Williams because he has all number 1 seeds in the Final Four. And the last time that happened, the only other time that happened was in San Antonio when Kansas won in 2008. So it was the year before you guys. I could see all the number 1s making it. I think Michigan State, Izzo is going to show up in the month of Izzo and find a way to take them down. I think UC San Diego is kind of sneaky in that bracket too. I had Florida going to the Final Four, but I didn't want to have a bunch of 1 seeds joining the party. So I'm going to take some St. John's action, get some Patino in there. I'm a Kansas fan, and I hope they don't play much longer because I can't handle watching them much longer this year because they have been not great to watch. I think there's so much skill and talent on that team that Bill Self just doesn't even know what to do rotation wise anymore. I'm laughing that Hunter Dickinson's still getting All-American teams and stuff because I'm like, you should watch him play and shoot layups because he's just big. But as much as I grew up not liking Duke, I love watching Cooper Flagg. My brother-in-law is a huge Duke fan, so I have Duke in there. And I have Houston in the Final Four, and I think my Big 12 bias shows up, and I'm taking Houston. I had them winning it last year, and then some injuries kind of killed them in their regional. So I think Houston has the defense to do it and has just enough scoring to get it done. I do like Florida, but like I said, I'm like, I don't need all number 1 seeds in this thing. Let's be real. But Florida's peaking right when they need to. Florida
just looks so tough in that SEC tournament. Yeah. I mean, they blew Alabama out.
Yep.
And it wasn't even close.
Yep. So I'm very curious how the 14 SEC teams show up. I'm curious how the down ACC looks. So it's kind of with my more understanding. I love college football, so I know a ton about all the conferences, but it's another thing I've grown to kind of appreciate and enjoy in this tournament is seeing how all the conferences come together and kind of show up and show out or just fall flat on their faces in the first weekend. But yep. So thank you guys for joining me. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed the tournament. Hopefully going down memory lane helped a little bit and brought back a lot of good memories. So once again, thank you guys for joining me. I greatly appreciate it and enjoy March Madness as we all will.
Thanks for having us on. Appreciate it.